Hello Jeep lovers, back in the garage, and we're going to attempt a project kind of dreading, which is replacing the rear mainsail on this Jeep Comanche 1986. It's got a 4.5 inch lift, and about I think the second year after this 86 model, they started doing half, so you could just drop the oil pan and replace the rear mainsail with 2 half circles. This one has the full circle, which means we either have to pull the engine or pull the transmission, and looks easier to pull the transmission, so that's what we're going to do. They say it's actually better to do it this way because you're going to get a better seal and less chance of having to redo it. But went to Harbor Freight and got a few items. Got this jack lift, this transmission jack, 450 pounds. I was going to get the 800-pound one, but they didn't have it in stock, so this smaller one, it's $130 should do. Saw a guy replacing a transmission on YouTube, and he needed some extensions, so we got some long extensions for our sockets. Got some gloves because it's going to be a messy job. Some extra metrics. The first thing, this lift goes up, I think, 23 inches. So we're gonna see if we're gonna, should be high enough, but let's get the tape measure out and make sure that it's gonna be able to work for us on these ramps that we got the truck up on. Anyway, we're just gonna take it one step at a time. Pull this transmission out and replace the rear mainsail. Let's do it. Let's get on the creeper and creep under there. Get a game plan together. First thing we're gonna do is remove these drive shafts back at the differentials. So we want to mark where these go back together. So we'll mark this right here and this right here. And we'll do the same for the front. A little greasy. So we're about 28.5 inches to the bottom of the transmission, and our transmission lift is 24 inches. So we're going to need to gain about 4.5 inches with some blocks or something as we drop that down. But I don't think we want to pull the truck off these ramps because I like having the workspace under here. So let's make do. This is a 8mm wrench we're using here. That shaft doesn't want to pull out, so we're just going to leave it in there, I guess, for now. Get it. Let's put some bolts at this end. Right, next I think we'll get this exhaust pipe out of the way. Remove these two bolts here. This bolt here has a stiffener brace there that needs to come out. Take this bracket off. Then there's a couple bolts up there that will release on the exhaust pipe. And we'll disconnect right here and get this pipe out of the way. We've already removed these once already for the oil pan gasket project, so should come out pretty easy. Once we get this all off, next step will be remove that starter. Right, we're moving right along. Got the exhaust pipe moved out. Disconnected up there. Let's put the bolts back up there, or the nuts back up there, just so we keep track of everything. Try to keep the nuts where they go, so to speak. That way we don't lose our bolts and stuff if we try to keep them back in the same place. Okay, we're making a little progress. Got the drive shaft removed, front. That one's just kind of hanging there. Got the exhaust pipe sitting over there removed. Got that brace removed. Next step is let's pull this starter. Just a couple bolts there. To get that off. Just keep moving. All right, one thing I forgot to do is disconnect the battery before messing with the starter. So let's get that disconnected. We'll leave the wires connected and just bungee that in place. Save us work. We're all about saving work. Let's get a bungee and tie that in so that it doesn't fall on our head. We're about 5 inches short with this lift because it can only go up 23 inches. We're about 28. So I have this old safe sitting around. So I just strapped that down. Tried to keep these ratchets off the top. And let's throw that under there and see if that works. No one said I was the smartest shed in the tool because can't lift the jack with these straps on here. That ain't gonna work. Come on, Marty. You're better than that. All right, that should work better now. Now it can ratchet up. Wow. Take both arms. All right, this should work. We'll put a towel up on top just so it doesn't slip around up there on the top. And we got another towel underneath that, safe. But anyway, I think that's going to work for us. I think we'll take another break. Can't have too many breaks. And then we'll start disconnecting linkage. We'll do this cross brace at the very last. Or, second thought, it might be nice to have that out of the way to get to the linkage, but we'll see what's best. So our idea to leave the oil in the transmission, I don't think that idea is going to work, because we got to disconnect this dipstick tube, and I think the nut, we're going to find it's inside this pan, because there's nothing to disconnect it up here on top. So this pan and the oil's got to come out, so let's do that next. I'm going to try to get this dipstick tube out. Doesn't seem to be any nuts or anything on it. And the tube seems to be not tied down really. It looks like there might be a strap up above, but let's take a mallet and see what we can do. disconnected the safety neutral switch right here. Electrical. Got this disconnected. Let's see what else we need to disconnect. These pop off pretty easy. Just get a screwdriver and pry them off. This is a shifter linkage of some type. Pull that down. Looks like a electrical connection up there. Right, we're gaining on it. Got transmission cooling lines to undo here. That might be it. It's a 13 millimeter. Well, it's a loose fitting 13 millimeter. I tried SAE and it never didn't fit well either, a ½ inch. But we'll try to do this with a 13 millimeter. It's on there tight. Let's get a bigger wrench. This wire here, I don't know how to disconnect it here, but I was able to disconnect it up above. So it's disconnected. I don't know about these cooler lines because I stripped. The 13 millimeter was loose fitting on this cooling line here. And this is all stripped now. So I don't know. They go up and around to the radiator. Not sure how to get those off. I have to go get a special tool to get those off with. Let's see. So those transmission cooling lines tie into the radiator here and here. So I think if we can disconnect them here, we'll have enough play with these lines that we can pull back without disconnecting them at the transmission. So that's the plan. We're gonna lose some coolant, but better than fighting those lines at the transmission. They're an oddball size, you know. They don't fit a 13th real tight, 13 millimeter real tight. They don't fit a ½ inch SAE real tight. So it's an oddball fit and we can't get any leverage. So let's disconnect here with a 16 millimeter. So those transmission cooling lines tie into the radiator here and here. So I think if we can disconnect them here, we'll have enough play with these lines that we can pull back without disconnecting them at the transmission. So that's the plan. We're gonna lose some coolant, but better than fighting those lines at the transmission. They're an oddball size, you know. They don't fit a 13th real tight, 13 millimeter real tight. They don't fit a 1/2 inch SAE real tight, so it's an oddball fit, and we can't get any leverage. So let's disconnect here with a 16 millimeter. We're up front at the radiator, and last night we got these cooling lines from the transmission broken loose. It's not easy. The 13 millimeter for some reason does not fit on these smaller nuts here, and it was just stripping it. Not sure why we're not getting a good fit. Had the same issue on the brake lines, so I don't know. But I did find these wrenches. They're designed for brake lines. They're kind of cool. I've never seen them before, but they're kind of a hybrid between a open end and a boxed end wrench. And that did allow me to get on these bigger nuts and get this broke loose. So I think we should have enough flex now with these disconnected to just leave it connected on the transmission, and hopefully we'll be able to be able to pull that transmission back, and these lines will just move up a little bit as we move the transmission back, just to get enough room to get in that rear main seal. Let's continue removing some bolts now. All right, I believe we're gonna need to remove these bolts here on the flywheel. I think it's holding on a torque converter or something on the back of that flywheel. But I think we're supposed to mark this with some paint so we get that aligned back up the way it came off, so there's no balance problem. So let's put some tape down here and spray a little paint to mark it where that needs to go back together. Let's do that now. Found this sitting up in here. This almost looks like it could be the rear main sill. We'll compare it with our new one, see if it looks the same. This is a tough one to get back to. So we got a swivel, a couple extensions on this 1/2-inch ratchet. That's a 18mm back there. Need both hands. So let's get up to speed where we're at on this rear main sill project on the Comanche. The lesson I learned here on this project is you got to be real patient, and if you're getting tired and frustrated because you can't find a 18mm socket, the one socket you need, you can't find it, just knock off, wait till the next day, go get yourself some sockets, whatever you need. Just take your time on this project, because you don't want to be stripping bolts or getting hurt by doing things carelessly. So just take your time with it, get rest, and come back the next day fresh, ready to go at it. So let's look under and get you up to speed where we're at right now in the project. Just a couple days into this now. This will be our 3rd day. Last night was just a couple hours, and then Sunday, I believe, about 5 or 6 hours on it. So So disconnecting the drive lines was pretty easy. The rear drive shaft came out really easy. The one in front, it would not disconnect, so we just are leaving that hooked up for now. And keep in mind, all we're trying to do is get this transmission down and out just 6 inches or so we can reach up there and replace that main seal gasket. That's the plan anyways. Like any plan, it can change as we get into this, but for now that's the plan going forward. We got our new transmission lift at Harbor Freight. It's the 400-pound Pittsburgh. We got all our bolts off the bell housing, except for one up there that we needed we needed a smaller 18 millimeter. We had some taller ones, but we just, when you get up there, you're really short on space. So we got this smaller head socket that should work. The cooling lines we could not disconnect at the transmission, so we disconnected them up front at the radiator. Starter's been pulled, exhaust pipe's been pulled to clear the way. So tonight I think we're going to work on removing this and getting the jack underneath the transmission and seeing if we can drop this thing. Take it nice and easy. So we could not get to that bolt up there, and we're just rounding it off, so we're gonna stop before we ruin that bolt. And the thought is that we can drop this transmission a little bit and get access to that bolt. So we're gonna go ahead and put the jack under this and remove this support, transmission support. It's right underneath the transfer. So let's continue taking these bolts off and see if we can get that last bolt up there by dropping this transmission a little bit and getting a long extension back over the top. There's just a bracket up there that's in the way, so it's making it difficult. Picked up another transmission lift at Harbor Freight. They're not that expensive. They're about $130. And it was just looking a little sketchy under there with the transfer case and everything. So we want to make sure we have safety under there. We don't want to drop the transmission and all that. So let's get this set up and we will try to pull that transmission tonight. I think there's one bolt left up in there that we got to reach back to get, but it'd be nice to have this extra lift under there. We're kind of pushing that 400 pound maximum load anyways with the one, so this will make it much safer. All right, we got a big extension on there. Let's put both hands into it, see if we can get her to come loose. We got that bolt out. It was holding a wiring bracket up there as well, so getting that back up in there, I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but we got it out with the help of this galvanized pipe. It really gives you a lot of torque. You put that on the wrench end and will break loose most anything. So good investment having this galvanized 2-foot pipe on standby when we need it. Okay, I think we're disconnected, but I'm not sure. We will get a ratchet strap around this and kind of see if we can jack it back. We're gonna have to miss some of this stuff back here, but we'll tie some stuff up and try to pull this transmission back off. Again, we're just gonna try to get it off enough to get our rear main seal up in there so we don't have to come back too far, maybe 6 inches or so. So stand by. So here we are, the moment of truth. And not sure if this is gonna work. We think we have all the bolts off the bell housing. We think we have all the wires disconnected. We think we're clear for about 6 inches to pull. Thanks to Harbor Freight for gifting us this ratchet set, because we're going to use these ratchets at the back to try to pull these transmission lifts this way, pull the transmission off the bell housing. Is this going to work? We don't know. But It's time to find out, will it work? Not sure what plan B will be if this doesn't work, but we'll do what we have to do to get this thing out. I think it's actually working because I can see a little separation up there at the bell housing. So I think if we put a pry bar up there, she might come loose. That's promising, seeing that separation up there. All right, let's pull her on back. Maybe go to the other side. Yeah, getting some movement. Well, we got separation here, about 4 inches. I think that dipstick tube might be hanging us up. It's going up on this passenger side. And so, I'm not sure we're gonna be able to do this without getting that dipstick tube off of there. So let's do some thinking on this. Enough work for the evening. Make sure everything's stabilized, jacks and everything, and we will do some thinking on this. Well, I gave it one last foot wedge and got it to budge another couple inches. So I think this is a torque converter or something for the automatic transmission, but not sure where that main seal is because I can't feel it back here. It must be right up against the flywheel. But it's a good stopping point to do a little more research and see where we go from there. I think we got enough room where we could undo these screws, maybe drop this down. But let's see what we got to do here. Kind of stuck. So we are looking pretty good. We got separation. We got some space in there. I think what we'll do is pull off this torque converter or whatever this is on the flywheel. There's some bolts on this side. And see if we can find that main seal gasket. Should be right on that flywheel, but let's pull it off and see what we can find. So I believe we have a rear main seal behind this flywheel. So it looks to be 19 millimeter on those bolts. So let's get the socket up there, see if we can pull these. When I got something like this that wants to spin, I found the best thing is to hit it with a rubber, hit this handle with a rubber mallet to break those bolts loose. So let's give that a try. This 19 millimeter is loose, so we're going to go try to find a SAE socket. Sometimes I mix these metric and SAE bolts up. Well, we tried a 3/4 inch socket and it was even looser, so I think this is the best we can do. All right, so we went to O'Reilly's, got a couple things. Got this thread locker. So we'll use that when we replace the bolts on the flywheel. And we got this flywheel holder so that flywheel doesn't rotate when we're trying to pull those bolts off. And I was wondering why our 19 millimeter 6-point was not fitting snugly and tightly on those bolts, and thinking there might be a socket between 19 millimeter, 18 millimeter, and there is not. So 18 millimeter does not fit at all. You can't get it on the bolt. So we're going to go with the 19 millimeter 6-point, which matches the bolts that are on there. And we're going to use this big old breaker bar. And between this breaker bar and this, hopefully we can break those bolts loose. Let's get under there and give it a shot. Let's do this. There it is. All right, we found the rear main seal. That orange gasket there. So what I've seen on YouTube is they will put a screw into that and then pull out with that screw. So let's try that. It's kind of hard to tell if this is bad, but it's probably 130,000 miles old, so sure it is needing replaced. And I'm getting little oil here, so it feels like this is where it's leaking here, but won't know till we replace it. So let's replace it. Well, I think we're ready to put everything back together. Main seal's in. Won't know if that's the problem, if we actually fix the oil leak until we start the engine up and run it. But pretty sure we got that. That was the issue. So let's get everything pulled away, all the wires and anything that could hang up, and we will turn our straps around the other direction and just pull the transmission up, jack it up as close as we can to the entry point, kind of like docking on the space station. So all right, we got the torque specs from Microsoft Copilot. Flywheel 95 to 115 foot-pounds. Torque converter 25 to 35. The U-bolt straps 14 foot-pounds. Bell housing to engine block 35 foot-pounds for the top bolts, 45 for the bottom. And we got the torque for the starter bolts, 2 of them, 30 to 35 on that. So let's start putting this thing back together. We will start with the flywheel. And we'll want to set that about 115 foot-pounds. We're gonna move it down to 110 foot-pounds. Since they gave a range. It just seems tight, I don't know. We'll see. Crank it up to 115. Okay. I missed that one. All right, good enough for government work. Must-have tool. O'Reilly's, about $40. Gotta have that. Okay, time to put the torque converter on. For these bolts that go on the torque converter, looked like they had some thread lock on it, on the threads. So we're gonna go ahead and put some of this thread locker blue on there from O'Reilly's. So let's go ahead and get some thread locker on. That ought to do it. It's a dirty job under there. Somebody's got to do it. There's oil sloshing around the torque converter, and I thought I'd better check on that. And that is transmission fluid in the torque converter, and the co-pilot, my AI co-pilot, recommended dumping out the old and putting about a quart of transmission fluid in there. So let's do that. All right, we got the torque converter put on, 35 foot-pounds. And I'm having second thoughts about that grease we put on the shaft, because it's got plenty of lubrication with the transmission fluid, and we just don't want to have that heavy grease mixed in the transmission fluid. So I think we'll wipe that off the shaft. You'll still leave a little residue on there, but we don't want any gobs of grease getting into our transmission fluid. So we'll clean that off, and I think we're ready to close this thing up. NASA, get ready. Docking station's about ready to enter connection mode. Out. Good morning, Jeep lovers. It's Saturday morning and we're getting back on the Jeep project. It's time to bring the transmission into the engine block. Got the torque converter and the flywheel torque down last night, so I think we're ready to move these ratchet straps around to the front and pull that transmission in and just put everything back together. So let's get to work, see if we can get this thing buttoned up today. All right, let's pull those straps and move them to the front.
So close. Let's drop this down a little bit. Now we're about a 1/4 inch away from docking. See if we can wire together with this ratchet. NASA, we have contact. So we got 2 bolts in, and it's a little bit of a battle getting that to fit in there, but we got her done. Let's get the rest of the bolts in.